What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is DH Thorne here. I got a brand new microphone and set up, so hopefully this works a little better than it's been working. I don't have to talk quite so loud for you guys to hear me well. A common question or theme that pops up in any social media group or discussion about magic, especially with newer people, is the subject of love magic. And even in some of the most baneful, darkest circles of magic, there's a lot of people who get, I'm going to say, borderline offended about the subject, and for pretty good reason. It's kind of one of those things where I've termed it as magical rape in some of my blog posts. And I want to elaborate a little bit because this is going to be going in my book. This is actually kind of important as a topic. Love magic, more or less, I see it as having three distinct types. And this is not meant to be a judgment about anybody who does any of them, per se, although I will be judging some people when I call you a magical rapist. I'm not judging you from a moralistic perspective. I'm judging you from an ethical perspective. And there's a reason I'm judging you. And let me go around the bases and you'll see if you can figure out why. The three basic forms of love magic revolve around either A, or one, attracting the attention of or the interest of either a specific person or to attract the one to come find you, basically, in life. This kind of magic is, I'm not going to say harmless, but it's pretty harmless. It's pretty, it's not really baneful at all. All you're really doing is you are using magic almost like a glamour to make yourself attractive to whoever it is you're trying to attract. And so long as, you are honest with yourself about what you're doing, I don't see any problem with that. All the magic is really going to do is, potentially create situations where your prospective love interest is going to see you in a better light. So you're going to be, stretching in the sunlight just right, accentuating your curves, or you're going to be overheard, doing something charitable, and they're going to be interested in you for that, or you're going to sound really intelligent to them because they're going to catch you at the right moment of your conversation. These kinds of things, and it's not requiring the bending of anybody's will. It's not requiring deception of any sort. And even if it does, it's kind of like white lie deception. It's kind of harmless. You're not tricking them, so to speak. Now, this can be used, of course, to attract your significant soulmate, and the real danger and risk of this kind of magic, especially with the soulmate angle of it, is that you can get into a psychotic kind of obsession where everybody that comes into your life that even remotely seems to fit a pattern that you specifically asked for in your spell or whatever, you're going to fall all over them and you're going to be all weird about it and you're going to be obsessed with it. And the worst thing you can do with any kind of magic is to be obsessed with it. That's the last thing you want to do. I mean, you can be obsessed about the practice of it, but don't be obsessed with the results that you're going to get. You should treat magic like almost like a celebration. You should treat magic as an art form. And you shouldn't have this attitude where if you press the button, it has to, give you something. Magic has a tendency, when people have that attitude, it'll work once in a while and it'll kind of tug them along. And then the minute they start thinking, hey, I'm powerful, I can do anything I want, then the rug gets pulled right out from under them. You need to have a kind of aloof, non-attached attitude about magic. The moment you become focused on magic as a practical solution to problems is the moment you're going to start having real problems getting results that you want. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm saying it'll probably be a problem for you. That's my experience and the experience of most of the advanced people I've ever talked to. The real magic works on you best of all. I mean, it'll work on the world, but it really works on you best of all, which leads me to number two. The second type of love magic is the self-improvement kind of love magic. This is the kind of magic where you use the power of magic to become more attractive in general, to maybe go to the gym, to learn to be more eloquent. Maybe you end up being more suave and debonair. You go on a lot more dates and you learn how to attract women. Or if you're a female, maybe you learn secrets of makeup from Azazel or something like that, and you just become better at attracting people. And that is that is a very valid, and I would say my most recommended way to use magic with love. And the nice thing about that is, with type 1 love magic, all you're really, I wouldn't say guaranteed, but all you can really expect is for your love interest to be attracted to you. So that means flirtation. That might mean a one night stand, but it doesn't mean love. It doesn't mean consummation of love that lasts a long time. It literally just means the door opens for you, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. And it works really well in conjunction with type 2 love spells, by the way. Now, a type 2 love spell where you're working on yourself, I want to be the perfect match for my mate or something like that, whatever your intention is. Or I want my husband to be more attracted to me, so what do I need to do kind of spell. Or I want my wife to respect me more and not treat me like I don't have, any authority. Well, that's a valid love spell as well if you're using it to improve your own self, to find confidence, to learn how to make decisions. Work on your throat chakra, by the way. That's a big way to do that. So you can do all these things in type 2 magic and harm nobody. You are tinkering with yourself. You can definitely make mistakes, but it's usually pretty safe, and it creates the most long-lasting results. Of course, the risk is you could be made perfect. You could do everything right and become really, really, a quality mate for somebody. And instead of, keeping them, you're going to land, in the midst of someone who's just a piece of crap. I mean, they're going to be not worth your time. So you're going to be a great person, but they're going to be flawed. And so then now the question is, are they going to become obsessed with you because you are now the apple of their eye? And how are you going to respond to that? And this is all part of the philosophy of what you do. This is all part of you have to think things through. Don't just resort to magic for every practical problem. A lot of problems can be solved without magic, and I'm one of those people that I don't believe in trying to do everything with magic. I think it's foolish. I think it's a waste of time. It's a waste of your ascension, really. You should be seeking higher information, higher skill, higher ability. You should be learning how to commune with the higher forces and to learn the true secrets and deep meanings of reality, not getting laid. Does that make sense? And magic is happy to get you laid if it gets your mind off of your base issues. This is a very common thing that advanced sorcerers will tell you, is that yes, magic is here to give you these things, but that's not the point. The point is to get your mind and your situation in a state where you can grow. Now, that can also mean failure, and that can also mean suffering. So for those of you who do a thing and you get a negative response, maybe that's why. You can't always just expect things. I've had some people get on my case because I've said that magic isn't a vending machine where if you put in a quarter you're going to get what you put in. It doesn't quite work that way. It's a little bit less predictable than that, and it's not it's not there to do tricks for you. It's not there to just make your life a lap of luxury situation. It's there to really to follow your true will, and your true will is what's going to work for you. And your true will is not, I want a Maserati. Your true will is, I don't want to have to worry about transportation anymore, and I want to be confident with my transportation, things like that. Most likely. I mean, I could be wrong. Your true will could be whatever, but in my experience. Which leads me to number 3, the third type of magic, which is the one I consider baneful. And that is when, you are essentially trying to bend, twist, contort, or otherwise manipulate the will of another person into loving you or your client or whatever it is that you're doing. So when you cast a type 3 love spell, you are basically cursing them. You are using a baneful curse to rob them of their personal motivation, their personal ability to decide for themselves. And the problem here is not that you are going to get a karmic, backlash. It's not that you're going to get the law of return or whatever, the all that kind of stuff. You're not going to get some kind of justice that's going to happen to you per se. I don't believe that it works that way. What I do believe happens is people who are shitty people who are willing to use baneful magic for petty situations and not for real serious situations. Those people generally have a character flaw, which manifests problems in the rest of their life for them without anybody helping them. I've run into many people like this, and they're the same kind of people who are very quick to use violence when they can't solve problems with words, or to just be emotional wrecks and not be able to handle life. They tend to go forward into the direction of baneful magic to get the things that they want. They're selfish, they're petty, and what ends up happening? It's not karma. It's just you're a jerk, and life's gonna shit on you for it. So if you're doing baneful magic, it's not really, honestly, my concern wouldn't be about justice, okay? My concern with a love spell is that most people do not understand that every magic has a consequence, but every baneful magic has a very much more abrupt, serious, and dark consequence than we're usually ready to accept. I've known people personally who have done death magic who were a little upset and scared because the result that ended up happening was something they didn't want. It hurt somebody that was innocent, and they won't do it anymore. They got what they wanted, but it ended up hurting the wrong person too. Whenever you do a baneful action, you are causing harm, okay? Let's say you're causing harm or you're bending somebody's will. You are potentially hurting people who are unrelated to the target. So in the example of a love spell, a type 3 love spell, you're going to say, I want such and so to love me and to be at my mercy and be sexually attracted to me and all this kind of good stuff. Okay, so what you might end up doing is you might end up breaking their will, because in order for that spell to work, the magic has to create situations in that person's life where their willpower is eroded. Maybe they're going to suffer a string of accidents. Maybe they're going to suffer a string of emotional setbacks or losses. Maybe they're married and their wife will die in a car accident. You see what I'm getting at? You're creating a series of events that you're most likely, not always, but most likely going to be causing them disruption and pain because their will has to be broken, all right? And if their will doesn't have to be broken already, that means that they're already weak-willed, they're already going to be kind of pathetic, they're already going to be having problems in their life, and you now may be influencing that person to be obsessed about you. And you're going to be getting a weak-willed, damaged, broken person as a sex slave, basically. And if you're looking for love or romance or anything resembling the kind of thing that you think you're setting out for, you're going to be sadly mistaken. In the Goetia and the other, demonology and demon altar books, you'll find that every single demon that works towards giving you the romantic sexual affection of a female also makes them barren. And back in the day, this meant a little bit more than just they couldn't have children, although that was the implication. It was also that this relationship would be meaningless. That's really the code. You have to understand all the little powers that the demons have in this book are code for abilities that are related in symbolism to those things. If it says it builds great walls, it means it's good for building fortifications, defenses, protections. If it builds towers, it's good for protection, but in a more observant way. You're able to see, like scrying, divination, you just know when people are bad. If you're doing love magic and it says we'll get them to you can influence them, but we'll make them barren or infertile or whatever they said, it's going to mean not just that they can't have kids. It means that this relationship, because back in the olden days, the most important thing in a relationship was usually having children, because that was how you advanced in society. That's how you cemented the bonds of family, and that was also a symbol of a happy home. So if you did a spell on a woman to make her fall in love with you, she might love you or she might be attracted to you, but you might lose what you really wanted, which was a relationship. And I'm going to sneeze, I think. So if I do sneeze, I apologize, but I think I fought it off. So that's what you're doing. And so when you're doing baneful, basically a curse, to curse someone to love you, what you're going to get is pretty much, unless you're just a sex-starved maniac who wants a sex slave in their sex dungeon, you're not probably going to get what you want. And if that is what you want, well, then here's what I'm going to tell you. You're a magical rapist, and I don't respect you for that. I think that there's better ways to get what you want, but it's not based on morality. It's simple ethics. That means that if you're willing to do that to other people just to satisfy the cravings of your base needs, your root sacral complex, where everything's about your dick or your pussy, then that means you're an easy target for someone with a higher mentality. You're very low on the energy spectrum. If your whole world revolves around satisfying your cravings like that, you have no discipline in life, and you're going to be an easy target for those who do have discipline. Not that we're just going to go out and come after you, but it's kind of embarrassing, really. I can't imagine wanting to be that way, or wanting to stay that way. If I had that problem, I would probably, honestly, the best way to get rid of a problem like that is to, first of all, realize you have a sexual hang up and just not care. Just don't focus on it. Just live your life, but don't try to abuse and hurt people. That's a separate thing. That's not love. That's not romance. You're not getting, don't fool yourself. Be honest with what you're doing, I guess is what I'm getting at. If your goal is to get these women or these men to fall for you sexually, don't tell people that you're trying to do a love spell. That's not what you're trying to do. You're basically trying to possess their body. And be honest about it, because if you're not honest about it, first of all, you're gonna have even less success. Honesty is one of the most important things you can do in magic. You don't have to be honest with the world, but with your friends or with me, but you have to be honest with yourself. And if you're lying to others to cover this shame, because if you feel ashamed about it, you know what I'm saying? If you're feeling shame about it, you're wrong too. So unless you're willing to go out in public and say, I do magic to get sex slaves, unless you're willing to be proud of it or share it with people or whatever, then that means you already know that it's not something good. You're hurting yourself when you're giving into this urge, believe it or not, because it's wrong, but you're doing it anyway, and you're basically giving yourself, in psychology, it's kind of like, I forget what the word exactly is, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. You're giving yourself a negative reinforcement, when you give in to these cravings. You have to show yourself that you have the ability to be the master of them, and then indulge, responsibly in the things that you're after. So, you have these Casanovas and these thoughts, or whatever you want to call them, running around, and they're doing their thing, and more power to them if they're playing, the game on the game table. You know what I mean? If they're not trying to abuse other people, then good. But this type 3, baneful magic, like I said, I'm not judging you for wanting to, even if you are a magical rapist, I'm not moralistic like that. I'm ethical. So if I judge you, it's more like I'm judging someone who's just an idiot. You're just a fool, and you're hurting the object of your affection and yourself in the process. It's you're not growing. You know what I'm saying? If you were going to do magic because you have a problem with sex, I would rather that you did a spell that helps you to become comfortable with whatever it is that you're doing, to the point where it's no longer a hang up. Once it's not a hang up, then you can find it more easy to have discipline over it. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like loving ice cream. There's nothing wrong with loving ice cream. There's nothing wrong with loving sex. There's nothing wrong with having sex, having ice cream, having all kinds of crazy things happen. But if all you do is eat ice cream, what are you doing to your body? You're going to turn into a ball, and you're going to die. The same thing applies to sex. If all you can do is focus on satisfying your sexual urges, you're going to end up with kind of like, all right, in Buddhism, there's this thing, samsara, and there's the wheel of heaven and hell and all the different planes and all this other stuff. And what you find is, the more you satisfy your pleasures, the more you go up on the wheel towards heaven, the more and more pleasure you need to satisfy those urges and those cravings. And you reach a point where nothing works anymore. And this is why you'll see people who give in to all of their impulses. Everything's got to get more and more intense, more and more crazy, more and more disgusting, more and more depraved, more and more ignoble, until they reach a point where they're at the very peak, and nothing does it anymore. And now they have to start being absolute monsters to appreciate anything. They start hurting themselves and other. Now pain becomes pleasurable, and this wheel turns, and you go down. You go into the hells instead. Eventually, you reach the bottom. You reach rock bottom, and then what happens? You're sick of pain. You're sick of suffering. You're sick of torture. You're sick of whatever it is that your depraved mind's decided is pleasure. And you're going to flip again. You're going to just keep going around and around and around in this cycle of rebirth. And that's what happens to some people. You can kind of tell where people are sometimes, too, because you can kind of see where they are. When they're really just focused on finding ways to feel good and to give in to their base urges, usually those people are not very intellectual, or if they are, they're not really wise. They're lacking somewhere in the other spectrum of their life. They don't have a balanced or healthy spectrum of personality. They're usually a little warped. And I'm sounding very judgmental, especially for someone who does black magic, but I'm trying to talk to you from the perspective of a left-hand path practitioner, someone who believes that you are a god, that you deserve to be free. And if you are not free of your impulses, okay, if you feel so trapped by your need for sex and pleasure and all these other things that you're willing to enslave another person to achieve that pleasurable goal, you are not showing yourself to be a god. You're actually showing yourself to be at the mercy of something that's below you, which is your dick and your body. Do you understand what I'm saying now? Is it making better sense? I hope, if it didn't already. You are basically showing that you're not in control, that you are being controlled by these other urges and instincts. And my advice to anybody who wants to do love magic, do type 1 and type 2 and leave type 3 completely out of it. I don't, unless you're trying to curse somebody. That's a different story. You know, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I don't like my friend Bob because he's such a player and I want to get some girl obsessed on him and give him a curse that way. I mean, again, this is up to you. You are taking kind of a consequential risk here. You are causing a situation where you might be hurting innocent people. This girl might be an innocent person that has no reason to suffer. But you never know. You might come across the perfect situation where there's two horrible people that deserve each other, and you can curse them to be infatuated with each other and toxic to each other and destroy each other. Yay, that's a pretty valid tactic in my book. You know, I would actually do something like that. So just keep these things in mind, and when you're doing these spells, try to focus on what your true need and intent is. Most of you people who are new to magic, who get into magic and want to do it for love spells and things, first of all, you may not have much success, but if you do, you need to make sure that your success is based on a healthy intention. And this isn't some white magic principle. This is literally just survival here, guys. You just have to understand that you can come at this from a dark perspective and still get the same answer as someone who's all about, karma and all that kind of crap. You can still come to the same solution, the same answer, ethically speaking. All right, I've rambled enough. I'm going to leave you guys to it. Just keep doing what you do and mind the shadows.